Black screen, slow heartbeat, white text, America, the 1990s. Imagine walking into work on a Monday morning and discovering your career no longer exists. Archive footage of office workers carrying cardboard boxes. Not because the company was failing, because the man running it believed fear was the fastest path to profit. Close up of a corporate boardroom, empty chairs, dramatic music rises. He smiled as thousands of employees lost their jobs. He called it discipline. Wall Street called it genius. Everyone else gave him a different name. Text slams onto the screen. Chainsaw Al. Chainsaw. Al Dunlap wasn't a criminal in the traditional sense. He didn't rob banks or run drug cartels. He wore expensive suits, flew on private jets, and promised investors he could save dying companies. Historic New York Stock Exchange footage. His method was brutally simple. Fire thousands. Shut down factories. Slash every possible expense. Watch the stock price explode. Fast montage of newspaper headlines about layoffs and soaring stock prices. To investors, he looked like a miracle worker. To employees, he was a nightmare with a corporate title. But behind the soaring profits, something far darker was taking shape. Financial statements flashed across the screen. Certain numbers glow red. Because the greatest turnaround in corporate America wasn't built on brilliant leadership. It was built on an illusion. And when that illusion collapsed, it became one of the biggest corporate scandals in American business history. Screen cuts to black. Chapter 1. The Making of a Monster. Black and white childhood photographs. Quiet piano music. Albert John Dunlap was born in 1937 in New Jersey, growing up during an era when business success was often measured by one thing alone: money. Vintage footage, post-war American factories. From an early age, he admired executives who made hard decisions without emotion. Compassion wasn't part of the equation. Efficiency was. Old business books, dollar bills, factory assembly lines. After graduating from college and serving in the military, Dunlap entered corporate America with a belief that would define his entire career. A company existed for one purpose: to maximize shareholder value. Nothing else mattered. Corporate office corridors, executives shaking hands. Employees weren't people to him. They were costs. Factories weren't communities. They were assets. And if cutting them made quarterly earnings look better, he believed they should disappear without hesitation. Typewriter animation listing. Cut. Fire. Sell. Repeat. Over the years, Dunlap refined a ruthless playbook that transformed struggling companies into temporary Wall Street sensations. Every turnaround followed the same pattern: aggressive layoffs, sweeping cost cuts, and dramatic promises to investors. It made him rich. It made shareholders cheer. And it earned him a nickname that would follow him for the rest of his life: Chainsaw Allah. The next section, Chapter 2, The Wall Street Darling, would cover his rise as Scott Paper and Sunbeam, explaining how his ruthless methods made him a superstar on Wall Street before everything began to unravel. Trading floor erupts with shouting. Stock tickers race across giant screens. By the early 1990s, Al Dunlap had become the most feared executive in America and the most celebrated. Magazine covers featuring powerful CEOs. Flashing headline: The Turnaround King. When struggling companies wanted a miracle, boards of directors didn't hire compassionate leaders. They hired Chainsaw Al because everyone knew exactly what would happen next. Corporate headquarters, employees walking through security gates. The layoffs would begin. Entire departments would disappear overnight. Factories that had supported communities for decades would close forever. Rows of empty factory floors, machines shut down, locked gates. As scrap paper, Dunlap unleashed his formula with astonishing speed. More than 10,000 employees lost their jobs. Plants were sold. Costs were slashed with military precision. Every decision had one goal: make the numbers look spectacular. Animated graph showing expenses falling while stock prices climb. To Wall Street, it worked. Profits surged. Company's stock price climbed. Analysts praised his discipline. Financial television called him a genius who wasn't afraid to make tough decisions. CNBC-style studio footage, newspaper headlines spin onto the screen. Investors didn't see thousands of families losing their livelihoods. They saw rising share prices. And rising share prices meant one thing: buy more. Dollar bills flying across the screen. Traders cheering on the exchange floor. Then came Sunbeam, a once iconic American appliance company known for coffee makers, grills, and household products. When Dunlap arrived in 1996, he promised another miracle. Sunbeam logo, press conference, cameras flashing. The market believed every word. His reputation alone sent the stock soaring before the turnaround had even begun. Then the chainsaw started swinging again. Employees leaving headquarters with cardboard boxes. Thousands of workers were fired. Factories were closed. Product lines vanished. Every quarter, Wall Street demanded faster growth. Every quarter, Dunlap promised even bigger profits. Fast montage of quarterly earnings reports. Green arrows point upward. For a while, he delivered. Sunbeam's stock exploded higher. Business magazines celebrated him as the ultimate CEO. Investors treated him like a corporate superhero. Boards across America wanted their own version of Chainsaw Al. Applause at shareholder meeting. Executives shake hands. But beneath the soaring stock price, something didn't add up. The profits looked almost too perfect. Sales were rising faster than reality could explain. Inside Sunbeam, a handful of employees began noticing numbers that made no sense. Dark office at night. Accountant studying financial reports. Certain figures glow red. Behind the applause. Behind the billion-dollar headlines. Behind the legend of Wall Street's favorite turnaround artist. A massive deception was already taking shape. And soon, someone inside the company would decide to speak. Black screen, a single typewriter key strikes. Text appears. 1998. For years, Wall Street believed Al Dunlap had discovered a secret formula. Cut costs, fire employees, drive profits higher. Repeat. But inside Sunbeam, some employees were seeing a completely different story. Dimly lit accounting office. Financial spreadsheets spread across a desk. The numbers looked almost impossible. Sales were appearing on the books before products had truly been sold. Warehouses were still packed. Customers hadn't taken delivery, yet the revenue had already been recorded. Warehouse shelves stacked with boxed appliances. Red circle highlights unopened inventory. One of the biggest tactics investigators later focused on was something known as a bill on hold transaction. In limited circumstances, bill on hold sales can be legitimate. But according to regulators, Sunbeam used them improperly to inflate its reported revenue. Products were billed to customers while remaining in Sunbeam's warehouses, allowing the company to recognize sales far earlier than accounting rules permitted. Animated timeline Shipment is delayed while revenue jumps forward in bright green. On paper, it looked like explosive growth. In reality, the business wasn't keeping pace with the numbers investors were seeing. Quarterly earnings reports flash across the screen. Several figures slowly distort. Inside the company, concern turned into alarm. Finance employees and managers began questioning the aggressive accounting practices. Some raised objections